Excellent. Welcome, everyone. Right here. Welcome, everybody, to it is an honor that you're taking time to be here at this Global Confluence, trailblazing back to our roots, liberating from the spell and awakening our divine nature. We are gathered around this virtual fire with leaders and visionaries, wisdom keepers, and truth seekers to weave conversations of the mind back into the heart, breaking up the concrete that keeps us away from our sacred connection with the land. In this fire circle, we will be exploring how others have trailblazed back to their roots, unraveled from the spell, and listened to the sovereignty of our divine selves stir. It is time we awaken from the amnesia and remember. As the acorn knows its destiny, it is time now that we as a human family awaken to the encoding written in our DNA to become like the oak tree. Let us be guided by those who have come before us and by these conversations at this virtual fire to step into our role as sacred stewards of our beloved Mother Earth. Let's trailblaze back to our roots, one rooted in nature. My name is Liisa Korpela, and I am your host and fire tender for this event. And I am thrilled to be here today with Greg Campbell, a real trailblazer back to our roots, one who has played a supporting role with wisdom keepers of some of the oldest roots known to our human family, those of our brothers and our sisters down under in the land which is now called Australia. Welcome, Greg, to this Global Confluence. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hey, greetings, Liisa. Lovely to be with you and with everyone.
Yeah, thank you. So just share a little bit about Greg for those who don't know him. Greg Campbell is a 75-year-old Australian author of a groundbreaking 2002 book, Total Reset, available at totalreset.au and on many other global sites, included as an audiobook. The seeds of this book, 3 decades in the making, were laid in 1972 when an unextraordinary life was forever changed into the rainbow serpent, unexpectedly appearing in a remote place and initiating the then 23-year-old into oneness reality, revealing the hidden fabric of our physical world. Thereafter, life unfolded under the extraordinary influence, initially in the company of Indian sages, followed by public service, which led him to founding a successful 1980s transnational cultural exchange consultancy. Though business was booming, in 1991, he was inspired to exit corporate life and move to the remote Kimberley region of Australia to live with Lulu, a widely respected traditional Aboriginal elder and powerful Maban shaman in the Gululaba Bulu people. I hope Gululaba Ulu people. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Concerned about the earth and well-being and threats to the continuity of all life, Lulu asked Greg to work with him on one book that would allow people to look at the world through different lenses and help inspire action to reset things by abandoning humanity's 5,000-year trajectory of division and destruction in favor of holistic ways of being and doing. During a 31-year collaboration, Total Reset slowly emerged with knowledge carrying unbroken from the first peoples of Australia for more than 65,000 years. It reveals them as the holders of holistic principles integral to our species design and ever capable of application, humanity's original blueprint for living. Wonderful. And I am so excited to dive into this topic of totally resetting from the ground up. Such a great title to taking us away from what is called the Great Reset, a digital revolution, to totally reset, reconnecting us back into nature. And so I am really loving to dive into this conversation. And so just to start off, Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you met and started living with the traditional Aboriginal Australians?
Delighted to, Liisa.
Yeah.
But I will correct 3 facts first.
Yes,
The
please.
Gularabaloo people is the
Gularabaloo,
name of,
thank you.
yeah, it's a long and difficult to pronounce word. The Gularabaloo people in the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia are my family, effectively, as well as my own family, two families. Secondly, its book was started in 1991 and completed in 2022, so it was 31 years. And its website is totalreset.com.au. So I thought I'd just clear the deck on that front and now get into the interesting stuff.
Perfect.
Jupiter, very wonderful planet, very powerful planet. But when I was 3 years old, I woke up one morning in a little modest 2-bedroom brick and tile home in the outlying, still bush suburb of Perth, Western Australia, on the Indian Ocean, and ran into the kitchen, jumped up into my high chair to have my cornflakes or wheat bix or whatever it was, and looked up, and there was this huge black man sitting at the other end of the little table. And he had a big smile on his face. And he said, "Hello." "Oh, hello. You must be little Greg. My name's Jupiter. That's what you fellas call me, Jupiter." I said, "Oh, hello, Jupiter," or Jupiter. I had never seen a black person in my life. But I'd seen smiles in my life, and I never saw a smile more beautiful than that one. He was maybe in his late 50s. He was a traditional Aboriginal elder. This is 1952. This is before Aboriginals were recognised as human beings in Australia, which didn't happen until a referendum in 1967. So Jupiter was one of the leaders in the Midwest of the state, and he had a heart attack. And the Department of so-called Native Welfare, Department for Aboriginal People, because they were ruled by, they were literally ruled apartheid-like manner, and they'd flown him down to the main hospital in Perth to save his life because they considered him to be so important to stability in the region. And they'd succeeded, and he went out to the airport to get the plane back to wherever, up north, and he missed the plane. And my father, who worked with this Department of Native Welfare, and we were the emergency phone number for the department at home, received a phone call saying there's this old Aboriginal man sitting on the tarmac at Perth Airport with a couple of boomerangs and he's not speaking. Can you do something? So Dad, being a kind-hearted man, drove out there and picked him up and brought him back home on Friday night. So when I wake up Saturday morning, there's this traditional Aboriginal elder, 6'3" or 4", cicatrices right across his chest from the initiation times, and with a couple of boomerangs. And we spent the whole weekend together. Oh, it was such fun. It was just fantastic, What a glory. It's like being with the ultimate grandpa sort of thing. And he was teaching me how to throw boomerang, it was very funny. And these are the ones that come back to you, He would throw it out 50, 100 metres, a great circle around and come back and land in his outstretched hand, He was a very, very powerful human being. I'm telling this story only for one reason, because the day before he left, we were in the car together in the back seat going to somewhere to have some fish and chips. And he looked at me, and energy poured out of his eye into me. Now, I just had the experience, that's all. I had no idea what it was, what was happening or anything. It was just an amazing thing. 20 years went by. I had classic middle-class, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant upbringing. 20 years go by. So here I am at 23, in full flight, Aussie male, loving beautiful women, beer and tequila, cricket, football, the whole thing. And surfing, because I was born on the ocean. Love surfing, but I'd never been down south of Western Australia where the great surfing spots are, like Margaret River Pros on the world circuit and so on. And my friend said, my friend Russell said, look, I've got my girlfriend Shelley's parents got a shack down at this fantastic surfing spot down south. Let's go down there for the long weekend. It was a holiday. weekend. So I said, oh, far out. So off we go. They're going to go surfing at this place. So we jump in his dad's car, we take off, we pick up his girlfriend, Shell, and off we go. And we get bogged about, 3 or 4 kilometres from where we're supposed to be. We go, this is rough country in those days. There's only bush tracks and so on, nothing, not sealed roads or anything. And it's all pristine bush, hadn't been touched from the beginning of time, right? There's nothing there. Just this one little shack that they built in a little valley behind the ocean dunes, and we were going to stay there for the weekend and then walk from there 800 meters to the ocean and do surfing, wonderful swells, 6-7 meters, 800 meters out from the beach. We got bogged. It was late afternoon, and we thought, oh, no problem, we'll walk. We said, grabbed our gear, left the car, they couldn't get out, hopelessly bogged, and we start walking, and we're walking across a plateau, and then the plateau starts to go down quite sharply into a valley, steep-sided valley. And I hear the sound of a creek running. And I asked Shell, I said, what's that? She said, oh, that's a perpetual creek. It runs out of a cave there in the side of the plateau, and it runs all the way down the valley past our little shack, disappears into reeds at the bottom of the dunes. Oh, and we use that for water and so on. Oh, all right. I said, that's wonderful. And the moment I heard the sound of the stream, all the hair on my arm stood on end because I felt I was about to be bitten by a snake. Now, we were walking on a very narrow track, about 1 metre wide, intense, full bush on each side, couldn't see through it, more than 1 metre or so. Now, I'd never been scared of snakes in my life because I played in the dunes at Scarborough Beach all my childhood years, and snakes were my friends. We never bothered each other at all. I thought they were amazing. But now I've got this incredible fear of being bitten by a snake for no reason. I'm stone cold sober, no rational reason. So I don't say everything. I'm a young fella. I'm not going to say I'm scared. So we walk down the track. We eventually reach the shack, get inside. There's nothing there. There's just no telephones. There's no electricity, candles, and bush style. So we make a bit of dinner, lentils, whatever. And eventually they go to sleep. I try to sleep on the sofa. I get to midnight. I can't get rid of the fear of this snake, whatever the hell this snake thing is. But eventually I drift off. And I wake up at 5 in the morning. Sun's just coming up. I put on my bathing shorts and go surfing. So I go and sit outside. It's a hot day. It's going to be 101 degrees that day, Fahrenheit. Blue sky day, 6th of November 1972. I sit outside on a balcony. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm looking up the steep-sided valley walls. I'm looking at these sort of just 20 metres of cleared land in front of me, and there's these reeds at the bottom of these beautiful white dunes. And over the white dunes, I can hear the swell, the waves thumping, really beautiful swell coming in. I thought, oh, I should go now. And I thought, no, not smart to go by yourself in an area you don't know about. A lot of white pointers there too, So I thought, no, I'll wait for them to wake up. So I'm sitting on the balcony, dangling my feet over, not a balcony, a veranda about 1 metre off the ground, dangling my feet over the edge and just taking in the beautiful surroundings. Very, very tranquil space. And suddenly the fear of being bitten by a snake returns and intensifies, worse than before. And I go to lift my legs up. I thought, oh, maybe a snake's going to come from underneath and bite me. So I lift my leg, too late. From the reeds, 20 metres away, a huge snake, 5 metres long at least, body as thick as one's leg, pure black, with a little white dot on its forehead, comes shooting out of the reeds and bites me on the right foot and disappears back into the reeds. And it all happens in like a nanosecond. It was impossible, physically fast. But I look down and I see the fang marks on my right foot, and I feel this warm thing flowing up my leg. And I suddenly realize, oh, your life just come to an end, my friend. That was the black snake, the most deadly snake. We have many deadly snakes in Australia, and that's the most deadly of all. You get bitten by it, you have between 30 and 60 minutes to live. Now, we had no vet. There was nothing in the shack, no anti-venom, no telephone, no mobile. Our cars, at least an hour away, Bob, going to take hours to get it out anyway. And then we're still an hour from anyone. So I all became very rational suddenly. And I thought, well, there's no point waking up Russell and Shell because you just traumatize them for life, you know, for no reason. You're not going to be able to save yourself at all. So your only choice really is to decide where you want to die. And I thought, well, that's easy. I love the Indian Ocean. I'll see if I can get to the Indian Ocean before I die. So I take off in my bathing shorts, you know. Fear of snakes completely disappeared because I'm already dead, basically. I take off, go up the top of the Juno, the other side. There's a magnificent, you know, full blue ocean, blue sky, vast open space, huge surf coming in, left break, 800 meters out. And I get to the beach and I sit there, cross my leg, it's like a half lotus, cross my leg, just comfortable. I sit there and I wait to die. And a couple of minutes later, I'm gone. There's nothing there. Nothing. But I'm still there, except I'm maybe about 400 years ago in a little hut, dying in pain and agony on the floor. No one there. And I experience it in real time for about 30 minutes or so, this death. It wasn't pleasant. And then I was gone, dead. And the moment I was dead, I was on the beach and could see everything again. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? Am I dead or am I alive? Am I actually dead thinking I'm alive? Or well, I couldn't, it was impossible to understand. I mean, I had a completely, I didn't ever have any psychosis or neuroses or anything like that, or weird stuff, you know, never, ever like that. So I'm very confused. Oh, I thought, well, thank God that's over. You know, oh, that was the bad thing to say because instantly I said that I was gone again. Now it was 350 years ago and I'm dying again. I'm in my late 50s. There's people gathered around. It's a modest little hut or little house sort of thing. And I'm on a low sort of bed and I'm dying fairly peacefully. People are crying. They're more unhappy than I am, you know. And then 30 minutes or so, 20, 30 minutes, and I'm dead. And the moment I'm dead, I'm back on the beach again. I'm really exhausted now, you know, I'm like really, because this is real. This is not dreaming. It's real. So I don't know what to do or think. It didn't really matter because a couple of minutes and bang, I was gone again. So this happened 6 times until last time in 1944, gone again. So back on the beach, and I'm completely gone because, you know, dying 6 times in one morning is not a lot of fun, to be honest. So I remember thinking, oh God, please, just tell me, am I dead or am I alive? What's going on? All I wanted to do is be with my beloved, my girlfriend, my French girlfriend, whose name is Liise, L-I-S-E. Liise, I want to be with Liise. That's all I want. You know, she became my wife of 30 odd years, 2 beautiful children. But at that point, she was my girlfriend. She was in Paris and I was here. I just wanted to be with her. And suddenly a voice speaks without words, not physical voice. And it says to me, oh, wonderful, you can be with her if you wish, right now. But if you want to be with her right now, you must die. Do you wish to die? Now, I contemplated that question more deeply than anything I've ever contemplated in my life because I love Liisa very much. She's my soulmate. And she passed of cancer many years ago. So I looked at it every which way. And then finally I said, no, it's okay. I'll live. And instantly there was an explosion of bliss. And my whole sense of self expanded out maybe 100 meters all around. I was not only that little, you know, body, embodied form sitting on the beach, I was the beach and the ocean and the trees and the dunes, and it was all vibrating as me. And then a couple of minutes and another explosion. Lucid doubled it intensely. Now it was at a level that the sort of lucid experience, I guess if you're having a really major orgasm or something, like a real super thing, you know, like really top class bliss, you know. So like that. Now I'm resonating with that bliss and I'm a kilometre all around. In a couple of minutes, 10 kilometres, 100 kilometres, 1,000 kilometres. Yeah, every time there's like layers of stuff peeling off, one after another, like an onion, you know, and peeling off. And every time the bliss was doubling in intensity. Unbelievable. 33 times. I reached the point where, I mean, there's hundreds of millions of years stretched out every which way, past and future, and many, many galaxies, like still inside this universe, but many, all myself. And then the self was the I, the EYE was the universe. It was me. And that me wasn't this me, it was the rainbow serpent, is what Indigenous Australians call it. Kundalini in full-flight in the Vedic tradition, the dragon in the Chinese tradition. I was looking through its eye, and I was it. So its body is the universe. It's not a physical body. It's consciousness. It's intelligent energy manifesting as all this all the time. The old man, the great Aboriginal elder Lulu, called it the ground at the bottom of everything. When you're sitting on the ground at the bottom of everything, when we're all sitting on the ground at the bottom of everything, problems over. All solutions to what ails the world right there, available, present, don't need AI. Yeah, so that was the space. Now, the bliss was so intense, that the experience was so overwhelming that whatever was left of the little I couldn't hold it. And I cried out, please, please, stop, stop. I can't hold it anymore. Oh, he was about to go for good. And it stopped right there. It just was trembling with this extraordinary bliss, just right there, not going either which way. And then slowly but surely, every layer that had unraveled came back in exact reverse order, one after the other, until again, I was about 100 meters all around, looking at that little fella sitting in his bathers on the beach. And I was laughing, thinking, what the hell would I want to go back into that body for? That's ridiculous. I can be like this in this space, you know, too bad about that. The body, it was now 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, about 10, 11 hours had gone by. The body stood up and urinated. I didn't say I stood up, still wasn't in it. It stood up literally and urinated and pulled me back into it. And there I was. Now, you can imagine what the sand is like, pure white sand on a day of 100, 101, 102 degrees. It's burning hot. You can't walk on it more than 5 seconds or so. Not feeling any heat at all. I had no sunburn that day whatsoever. How's that possible? But anyway, that's the truth of it. I'm rolling around on the sand, just laughing and laughing, like, you know, and not feeling any heat at all. And suddenly Russell and Shelley appear over the dunes shouting at me, come on, we've got to go back to Perth. You bloody useless person laying around here all day. You couldn't even help us unbog the car, and it took us hours, you know, like that. Now, of course, they have no idea what's going on at this point. So we go back to Perth, and we arrive. Now, on the doorstep of the Monday evening, public holiday, no deliveries, on the doorstep's a brown paper package addressed to me. It has no, I don't know where it's come from, I don't know who it's from, it just has my address in the front, that's it. I open it up, as you would. It's a book. It says The Play of Consciousness, Swami Muktananda. What the hell's this? So this is the evening of when this has happened, right? And so I open it at random towards the rear, and I read something where one of his people has asked him a question. And she said, last night I had a dream, Barbara. In the dream I was bitten by a snake. What does it mean? This is a true story, okay? So, you know, he said, oh, it's very auspicious, you know, Shiva's blessing, sign of the awakening, Kundalini, you know, awakening. I looked at my friend Russell, the rental property. I said, I'm going to India. And that was a time when you weren't supposed to go to India in Australia, you know. So it was clear as pie to me. I had no, you know, I had no interest in going to India before, or India at all. But it was so obvious what I had to do that it was didn't even. So I went to India, and so the great journey began, driven by the rainbow serpent energy. So I spent, you know, some time in India with Muktananda in the ashram, very traditional ashram at that point, no sex, no drugs, no rock and roll. I was up at 2:30 in the morning, you know, a lot of meditation, a lot of Sanskrit chanting, a lot of hard work in the fields, plenty of diarrhea and, you know, the whole thing. A fantastic experience for cleaning yourself up. Then I come back into the world, don't know what to do. I'll just become public servant, you know, with government, clerk, you know, doing stuff. And that's all good. But except the bosses, they sort of like what they see. They keep promoting me. And I finish up in the capital, national capital in Canberra, in the federal public service. And there, the boss of the department, the most capable bureaucrat in Canberra, decides it'd be a very good idea, after listening to my story that I've just told you and numerous other stories, which he did the moment I arrived in Canberra, called me to his office and said, now tell me your whole life story. This is a very smart operator. 2 degrees, barrister, solicitor, ex-deputy commissioner, Australian Tax Office, brilliant man. Tell me your whole life story. I told him the whole life story. He said, okay, he says, we're going to start something for stress management, because I had a senior executive die, well, not die, he said, very badly damaged by a stroke last week, and sad because he's a good man. I said, we've got to do something about this stress thing. He said, this meditation stuff that you do, you know, he said, would that help? I said, oh, yeah, no doubt about that. Big help for people. He said, well, let's start some sort of course once a week, you know, for a few weeks, lunchtime, you can use the conference room. You know, you've got to be serious. You've got to try to help these people, give them something they could use. And so off we went. I started teaching meditation lunchtimes in the department, Australian government department, and things spread like wildfire because people had a lot of experiences, spiritual so-called experiences. I mean, hearing thunder roaring on a blue sky day when you're in meditation, or seeing the blue pearl pop out of your eye and stand in front of you, whole universe inside of me, and go back and, you know, these happening to the typist from the typing pool, to the senior manager from, you know, the senior executive from whatever branch of the department, and all this sort of stuff going on. So hundreds of people finished up coming every week to 3 of these things, and it went on like that. And then a billionaire in Melbourne hears about it through his defence contacts in Canberra, and he invites me to join his team that wants to win the America's Cup in 1983. You know, as the motivation guru, is this guy understands something about the mind and consciousness. He knows how to get people focused in the zone, you know. He could be really useful for us, you know. So Australia finishes up winning America's Cup in 1983, first time anyone had ever beaten the USA, who had held it for over 100 years. It wasn't my team, it was the other Australian team, Australia 2, that actually pulled it off. My team, however, supplied a couple of key people who sailed on Australia too, and they were very happy to talk about, when they got back to Australia, the benefits of Greg's involvement in, you know, setting their minds in the right space and so on and so forth. So I come back to Australia and I get inundated from calls from the corporate sector. Please come and show us what the magic is so that people perform at a high level, you know, so highly motivated, everyone working together, you know. Oh, how do you do this? So I started consultancy. I leave the public service with the blessings of the chairman of the public service. And he says, you're very welcome back here anytime you want to come. So I start my one-person company, and I spend 5 years working in the corporate world. I work with the head of Honeywell Bull in Australasia. I work with the head of the biggest corporation in Australia, Telstra, 90-odd thousand people, and all these others. 5 years I do this work. At the end of this period, I look at my bank account and I say, okay, that's enough. That's enough. Now, what am I supposed to do? 38 years of age. I turned to my mother and I said, Joan, who's a famous ceramic artist in Australia, many pieces in all the national state galleries of Australia. I said, Joan, when you're in Canberra next time, can you ask some of the senior Aboriginal people there for 2 or 3 names of very well-respected traditional elders, because I have a feeling I need to go and sit with one for a couple of weeks, a man, you know. And she said, yeah, no problem, Greg. And she came back from Campbell with 3 names, and they were all in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, 2,300 kilometres north of Perth. Pristine country, one of the crown jewels of Earth's ecosystems, the Kimberley, as big as Europe or bigger. And very few people, 15,000 people, you know, unbelievable, yeah? Like America a long time ago. So I go up there and I go into the office of the Kimberley Aboriginal Law and Culture Centre, and I give the 3 names to the receptionist, and I said, to any of these gentlemen here in Broome, in town at the moment, little town of Broome, she said, no, that one is in America, talking with American Indian chiefs. This one's up north. This one, look through the window, see that old fella sitting on the ground under that tree over there making a boomerang? That's Paddy Rowe. He's here. You want to say hello to him? And I said, oh, that'd be wonderful. Lulu, we call him. She said, Lulu. I said, okay. So she takes me over. She introduces me to Lulu. I sit on the ground there all day with him. I spent under the tree. I come back the next day and sit there with him. We're just talking away amiably about whatever, you know. People are coming and going. I didn't know that was his office. Like anyone in the world who wanted to know about Aboriginal culture and land issues come to see Lulu at his office under the tamarind tree in Dora Street, Broome. And I'd be sitting there watching people coming and going, seeing how he's handling them, and then we'd be talking, and then he'd work on his boomerang or shield again. And this goes on for a week or two. And then one morning when I come in, because I come in every morning about 8 or 9 o'clock and stay till 5-ish or so, one morning I come in and sit there, he turns to me and he says, Bubba, he said, might be a good idea we write one book. I said, what? I said, you fellas don't read or write. No, he said, we don't read or write. That's what you fellas do. He said, we got the original knowledge, you know. We've been carrying it from day one. We've been carrying it from first humans. We still got it. We haven't messed it up because we didn't write it down. He said, but we got it. And now the world is in big trouble. And if we don't bring this knowledge to the surface, we're all going to be lost. So he said, big thing this one. He said, I want you to think about maybe you can live here with us on country and you work together with me and my people and we do this one book. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. I mean, that's a great honour, Lulu, but, you know, I'm not a writer, you know. Yeah, you'll be at the end of this, he said, with a chuckle. I thought it was going to be like 3 or 4 years, you know, at most. And I thought, well, that's, you know, it's really an honourable commitment. That's something worthwhile doing for humanity, for life. But it's 31 years. I had no idea it was going to be 31 years, you know. And it was like that because I also had to be cleaned up. I couldn't just go and write the book like anyone just writes a book. No. You had to be in the real space. This thing has to be authentic. If it's not authentic, it's not going to do the job it's supposed to do, you know. So how to become authentic? Oh, that's very simple for the old people. We're camped out bush, Lulu and me, and he says one evening, late one evening, might have been 11 o'clock in the evening, we're still sitting around a little campfire, you know, in the middle of the bush, maybe a kilometre back from the ocean, about 50 kilometres north of Broome, beautiful, you call wilderness. And we're sitting around the fire and he says, maybe we'll have a little walk. And this come out of the blue. At 11 o'clock, no, I'm thinking of sort of dropping off to sleep, you know, on my swag under the stars. No, a little walk. Well, I never said no to Lulu. So, okay. So off we go for a little walk. Thing is, there's no moon and there's full cloud cover and therefore it is pitch black, full stop. There's no ambient light anyway. Yeah, there's no light and you cannot see more than a metre or so in front of you. So we set off for this walk. And walk on a very, very narrow track, sort of, and then no track, just through the bush, you know, like that. Well, I'm one step behind Lulu. And I'm one step behind Lulu because there are crocodiles in this country. There are very dangerous king brown snakes in this country, and many of them, not to speak of death adders and, you know, you name it. They're all there, and I not know this country at all. So, you know, I'm walking behind Lulu. And he said, yeah, he said, you know, when you walk, That's why I tell you when we leave camp, you don't have shoes on. You've got to walk with bare feet, because that earth energy flows through you. You can feel with your feet, Yeah. So he said, you're good. You're walking with bare feet. He said, and you're walking, you're walking with him. You're not walking on him. You're walking with him. You're moving together. You're fully alive, country. He smell you. He smell you. He see you, hear you, he know you, he alive. You think, white fellas, you think he just dead rock, the rock, there's nothing in it, just a rock, or he's sand, or he's just water. No, you're all alive. You're one big fella. So you walk with him. That's your lian you got to use. Lian, Liyan, West Kimberley word for this one. Many different words for the same thing. It's like sacred. It's like a sacred cord, sacred thread, not physical thread. In the region of the belly button, where you were originally connected, physical thread to the mother. Same. There's this subtle, non-physical thread connected to the whole fella, the whole system, everything. When it's not, when it's full open, when you're little bubba, 3 months, you're full open. You're feeling everything. You don't need that mind thing. Mind. You don't need words. No, none of that. You're feeling it. Yeah, Lian, Lian. So you're working with your Lian when you walk, Baba, Well, I'm trying to take this in, but it's not easy. I really don't understand what he's talking about, to be honest. I mean, I can understand conceptually, but not in practical terms how to apply it. I'm still walking my feet as a separate person, separate being from what I'm walking with on. So anyway, 40, 50 minutes walk, winding away. And suddenly he said, "Oh, you hear that? Just behind us there." And I turned around and nothing. I turned back. Oh, Lulu, he's gone. He's not there. I thought he must have moved. Hey, Lulu, nothing. Lulu, nothing. I stand there for 20 minutes. Enough for him to maybe go to the toilet, come back, No, nothing. He's gone. I'm thinking, oh shit. I'm in real trouble. I don't know. Well, I don't know Lulu much at this point. He's a powerful Aboriginal man. I think maybe he decided to do me in for some reason in a nice way, So I don't know what to do. So I wait longer, another 20, 30 minutes. So I thought, no, that's it. I've got to try to get back to camp. Now, I have a general sense of where camp is, a general sense of sort of this is that way somewhere. And I think, okay, now how do I get there? I can't see where I'm going. There's no track. There's just this bush. So, yeah, that's it. I've got to follow my Lian. I've got to turn my feet on like ears and get the mind out of the way altogether and just be with the thing and have fun. Enjoy it. Enjoy the bliss. Let go of the fears. Get into that space, bro, and you'll be fine. And so I did. And I take off and I'm walking like joyfully, weaving, like fast walking like this. I'm following the Lian energy. I'm not following what my mind's telling me to do. No, walk, back to camp. Sure enough, right there, Luna's sitting there with a cup of tea. He says, "Hello, brother. How's that Lian going?" He was a great teacher, Lulu. Fantastic teacher. So
out in the bush, and you're going to have to find yourself.
To your short question of how
I love it.
Lulu.
I love it, and there's this. So that Lian, is this kind of this idea of like the ley line, or is this also? I hear the song lines is a way that it's
different thing altogether. Okay, so song lines, we call them up there song cycles. Song lines is fine. Ley lines coming out of Europe. This is similarly non-material level of reality we're talking, okay? This is this other level of reality, which is not material. It's therefore not born it doesn't come into existence and cease to be in existence. There's no birth, no death. There's no time involved. It's outside the space-time bubble. The space-time bubble is a product of it, and all the forms and phenomena of our space-time bubble. So the ley lines or the song lines, song cycles are like a net, like a net, and that net's vibrating, and its power is so great that it can manifest form and space. But it's not that when the form's manifested, it's no longer there. It's still that. It's still vibrating as that, as you, as me, as everything that's here, right? The ley lines and song cycles refer to the whole Earth system. So if you imagine that before there is a physical Earth, there's a network of energy flows, like the nervous system of the body. There's a whole nervous system. It's not material. It's the song cycles, the ley lines, whatever. Now, the First Peoples of Australia know the song lines inside out. They sing them. They sing them in their secret, sacred business in the West Kimberley, for example, and throughout the Kimberley every year. More than once, often. They do a whole ceremonial thing that can go on for days or weeks, and everything is sung. It's the power of sound that creates. Creation, physical creation comes out of sound. There's a great story they tell about that. I'm not sure we have time for it.
I mean, there's so much to unpack here. and I
well,
love
it's it. Yeah, that story's in the book. It's in
the
Total
ground,
Reset.
kind of like the energy that maybe even we're talking about the quantum field right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that there is this energy that, and that through sound, in that vibration, then creation comes into being. The coalescing of these molecular forces can come into being.
Yeah.
And so there's like the beauty of like listening to the net of the earth, but then there's also the beauty of the oral tradition, right? Which is song. And I would love to kind of, there's this word that, you use down under that, the law, right?
Yeah.
And just, it's kind of that same word, like country, this capital C, like they're living documents, they're living creation, right?
Yeah.
So the song, which is in alignment with the law, right? In because it comes through as this truth, it comes through as this connection.
It is.
It is the truth.
Yeah,
right?
It is the truth. It's the real. The
Right.
real is
Yeah, dive into that.
self-revealingly real. When you finally have that, when one has that experience, it reveals itself as the real completely. And everything else then has its relative place in the scheme of things. Yeah. So they're aware of that. See, the old man was sitting on the ground at the bottom of everything. From his point of view, this was all the dreaming. They call it the dreaming. So the Vedic sages call it consciousness or Brahman. Every culture has its name. The American Indian Sioux, I think, called it Wakanda. Everyone has its name for this energy or power, which is not material. I mean, it's what we call in English the spiritual world, spiritual reality, spiritual power, and it has all sorts of unfortunate connotations these days. Indigenous people don't call it that. They have their specific name for it, and that's what they use. And they, in their ceremonies, get into that experience of that space, right? Lulu's consciousness was not duality consciousness, full stop. It was always the consciousness I first experienced via the rainbow serpent, the place I call Gundanup in Western Australia. So he was always in that space. I saw him in many situations over many years, all sorts of situations, and never, ever did he lose his cool. Never did he become overexcited or miserable. Never did he become excessively delighted by something or put off by something. He was so steady. There was this great steadiness. So it wasn't the psyche, it wasn't the ego mind complex that he was hooked into. It was the deeper root of our being, the very root of our being that he was hooked into, that every human being is capable of hooking into, that so many animals, dolphins and whales and elephants and horses and dogs and so on are hooked into, and trees and bushes are hooked into. You know, this thing of not being that way is an aberration, and it's only been happening for the last 5,000 years or so on Earth. For the previous 290 plus thousand years that our species, modern humans, have inhabited this planet, that's what we know of at this point, we lived in the other space. We lived in a unity consciousness or oneness consciousness. We did not live in duality consciousness. It is abnormal. It is not something to be sustained. It is to be discarded by returning to our roots.
Yeah, and you also use the word dichotomous, the dichotomous consciousness,
Yeah.
which I think I love that, because the spell, which I call, is kind of like the master slave dialect. The master has to have a slave in order for identity to be it, right?
Yeah, rule. There's completely false dichotomy. The dichotomy that he showed me clearly is egalitarian through and through. How can it be egalitarian when everyone's so different, as thankfully everyone is? Because we're all sacred. We're all spirit self occupying a human body. Or, bird self, is it spirit self occupying a bird body? Trees, it's spirit self occupying a tree body. Everything is sacred. In the natural world, everything is, and everyone, therefore, is sacred. That's the bottom line of egalitarianism. And the extraordinary thing about of Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people in Australia, is that they, holding that law, that original primal law, first law as they call it, some people might sort of look at it as earth law or natural law, holding that law unbroken from day one meant that their societies functioned in alignment with it. So if it's egalitarian ethos, you cannot have rule of rule. You cannot have hierarchical governance. Hierarchical governance does not exist in the natural world. The natural world consists of autonomous entities who are fully autonomous, interconnected with other fully autonomous entities to maintain not only their survival, but that of the whole system. And it doesn't require central governance at all. Full stop. Of course not. That's why it works. So when you spend time with these sort of people holding this knowledge, you come to see how the whole society is structured to work to endure in a way that is fair and equitable, not only for people in their community, but for the whole natural world. This is the deep meaning of respect. And the respect comes from the experience, awareness, and acceptance that all is sacred.
Yeah, and those laws of reciprocity, right? And that like when the consequences of these actions are going to have, responses.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. Yeah.
And so how did we become, this, you had put it 5,000 years. I'm not sure exactly the time frame, but like, when is it that we kind of split this consciousness, and what kind of intuition around that journey?
Well, in Australia, we didn't slip out of it until 1788, because until 1788, no one was living in Australia other than the Indigenous peoples of Australia, and they were all in that space. So all hell was breaking loose in Europe and other places with endless wars and so on. There were never wars of conquest in Australia, ever. No wars of conquest. Such was the structuring of society, very, very clever, sophisticated structuring of society. So that was not possible. So, what happened to the rest of the world is people, I think it's a very simple story. You're living in a traditional way, and one day in, say, Mesopotamia, you come across this special valley. Instead of having one crop of natural barley a year, it has two crops. And you think, oh, far out. We can stay here. We don't need to move on in the way where we're following this cycle of food in our country and collecting in each place during the season. We can just stay here, And so you had the beginning of settling in order to receive more produce from the land through your farming efforts with grain and animals, and then you got more than what you needed to feed your mob, so you could trade. So the moment you could trade, then others had settled down somewhere. So eventually you have little villages, and then you have towns, and then the towns become big and they become sort of city states. And then, then one city state's got a ruler who can see the the resources that might be available in another city-state if they want to knock them off. And so they do, they go for it and knock them off and make them all slaves or kill them all and seize the resources. And here we are today. Here we are today. Global rule has arrived, so yeah, same template, same operations unfolding, same outcomes, except devastating now for humans when it's happening at this level. And of course, the oceans, species going extinct at a rate that exceeds 10,000 times, between 1 and 10,000 times the background rate, normal extinction rates of species. It's just completely out of control.
Yeah, we have this like progress, which is going like the freight train, right? And we are compelled to think progress is the right way to be.
Yeah.
We should all assimilate to this progress. And the progress is completely void of that connection with land, right?
Yeah. Connection, devoid of connection with country with a capital C. Meaning not only all the elements of the physical world, but the non-visible elements of the physical world, the other reality, right? That's when they talk about country, they often talk of it as living country. And living country with capital C, meaning forget about you're a tourist or somewhere, you live somewhere, how nice it is, this view, how pretty the country, how lovely, we've got to look after it, but no feeling that I am country. Country is me, that's what's missing. So Aboriginal, from the day one, never made that mistake. Into their system, they built all sorts of very clever little things to make sure that people were intimately connected personally with country. So when you were born, you had a totem. You had a totem. So your totem might be, a particular tree. Well, you are connected with the spirit of that tree. Up there, they're called mamara trees. Trees with powerful spirits, and your duty is to look after that species of tree your whole life. You never cut it down, you never use its firewood. If it gets hurt with disease or something, you look after it, you make it healthy again, and it in turn looks after you. And when you've got a lot of people with more than one totem, often 6, 7, 8, 9 totems, the whole world starts to get looked after. Everything, like this very sophisticated, social engineering, to be honest, extremely sophisticated. And then extended kinship system. That tree is one of your kin. In family, your father's brothers are your fathers, all of them. Your mother's sisters are your mothers, all of them. So therefore, what would have been cousins are now your brothers and sisters. And your father's grandfathers, brothers, are your grandfathers, and mother's grandmothers, your grandmothers. In the end, the whole society of 1,000 people is connected as family. I mean, how clever is that? You see? And with every relationship, there are rights and obligations. So people get looked after. Injustice can only go so far because something's going to be triggered to bring back the thing to balance again, justice restored. As I go deeper and deeper into Aboriginal culture, I really was overwhelmed by the realization that they were way, way ahead of us, that the sophistication of their socio-economic systems and structures was mind-blowing. And it was a shock to me because I thought, like many Westerners, that we had progressed, we were civilized, we were doing pretty well, except problems we had with pollution and so on. Well, we could clear that up. That became very clear that was a deluded thinking and not aligned at all with anything remotely approaching the truth of things.
Yeah, and it's also too, kind of really witnessing how the Western civilization just came to their mind. It's all through the mind and the construct of the mind, and how these things are then formed, completely devoid of the heart connection.
Yes. Yeah, well,
right?
wisdom, it dwells in the inner heart. I mean, if we want to understand the way forward, the mind must be informed by true feeling. True feeling is the ground at the bottom of everything. It's the intelligence of the whole system. So we allow ourselves to be open again, like we were when we were little kids, open again to true feeling, and that energy then informs the mind, which can, if it's a good mind, interpret it quite accurately, and then you have the solutions and strategies that work. They do not come from the traditional means anymore of you take that side of the argument, I'll take this side, and then out of that process we'll get the best result. That whole Aristotelian mind intelligence trip is a valuable thing, no doubt about it, providing its overarching driver is true feeling or wisdom, intelligence of the whole.
Yeah,
So
that same
there's the
idea of like the
solution.
law, right? That the law then comes through the feeling of the heart, right? And we have so much
Yeah.
man-made law right now, which is
Yeah.
not just, is not
No,
served, right? And
no,
so we don't even
no,
have connection to this
no,
law because we don't feel that it's serving us in
no.
any way.
It's not true. It's not true law. No. True law is the universe. The universe
Right.
has its law. It's called Dharma in the East. The Dharma, the law, the natural way. Human laws will only ever work if they're fully aligned with universal law, the law of nature. You look at how nature works and you really look at it closely, and there we have a mirroring of how we should be functioning as human beings on this planet and how we should be organized, socially, economically. You never see in nature mindlessness or waste. Never. No mindlessness, no waste.
And even these ideas of competition, which we have been taught, that evolution has survival of the fittest through competition. And now actually we witness nature is rather collaborative and symbiotic and actually really working together.
Yeah.
Right?
No, Darwin was right to a degree in that, of course, there's competition in the natural world.
Right.
But there is also Peter Kropotkin in Russia at the turn of the 20th century had a good look at this. There's also very, very strong collaborative, cooperative mechanisms operating between different entities in the natural world, and most likely that has been more successful in ensuring their continuance than competition. So competition has a part to play, but it's the lesser part compared to cooperation, collaboration, working together. Yeah, true. And that's how Aboriginal societies are structured. So they can compete, and they can even fight not to take land and kill each other. They can fight and so on, those tendencies. But at the end of the day, it's always resolved. The conflict is resolved through collaborative coming together and, declaring peace and getting on with business again. So, they are aware of all the human tendencies, plus and minus. And the part of the beauty of their cultures is they worked out how to manage everything so well. So we did the opposite with greed. I mean, greed's a deadly energy. You've got to manage it in a society, and we just unleashed it. We said, go for it, global capitalism, do what you want, make as much money as you can. Good. No, not the way to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because eventually we got to get to the bottom of everything.
That's right. Good one.
Where our true heart and our true connection is to those deep roots, right? It's to the land with a capital L. We use the word land more here than country.
Okay.
We
Everyone
use
has a different
countryside, but I like
expression.
the word country. We have land with a capital L, or nature with a capital N.
There you are. There you are. Same.
This living connection into this greater web of life.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So when you're seeing these, you're looking, what's your message with really seeing these cultures and these connections and how they are able to resolve without wars, having this holistic kind of solution? What's the message that really is coming through that we need at this time to kind of turn ourselves around and get to this total reset as you break it down?
My message would be, and is, use the easiest and most powerful means to restore governance in your world to the ground on which you and your community live. So autonomous self-governance on that ground as it always was. In order to move into that space without creating revolutions and so on, get to know land, get to know nature, get to know country as family, get the experience of being it. So that means making the effort to go out there into a space which maybe local Indigenous people or whoever know to be a powerful place or a special place, and sit there for a full, weekend, at least for starters, 2 nights with a campfire, with the mobile turned off, and just be with it without any motivation or expectation or whatever, so that with your shoes off, unless it's snowing, maybe even then, it depends, how evolved you are, I guess. So, and just be with it and let it flood into you, let yourself flood into it, merge with it. This is the starting point. Up to this point in human history, people have just lived that way, and it's all happened. Then we had to find a sage or a wise person and go and live with them, right? And that's still a valid way, of course. But in these times, the human condition as it is, it can be very difficult to ascertain which sage is real and which one's not, who has a motive, who doesn't, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So instead of getting confused by all that, one thing we're being sure of is country never lies, it never deceives, it never manipulates. It is the real deal. So be with the real deal and make that effort. And I assure you that when we do, country will enter you. Land, nature, that energy, that spirit of the inner heart will open up and become alive. It will start dancing, and you will start dancing and singing and clapping, such is the joy of that spirit. So this is the starting point for major social change. The major social changes, economic, political, are very, very necessary, and they need to happen fast. But in order for there to be a firm bedrock for successful transitioning and transformation, there needs to be responsibility to be taken by individuals and groups to get into that space and hold that space. And then when you feel we're holding it, start to talk about how do we bring autonomy back to the ground again? How do we become self-governing? How do we run the show? Yeah.
I love that. That is beautiful message and great medicine, just because we have to start with ourselves, right? And we are so used to looking for authorities or things outside of ourselves to get those solutions, right? And so to really build that relationship with yourself and country so that we can reweave our this humanity back into the fabric of life, which we have ripped ourselves off of. And
exactly. So we just teach ourselves again how to work with those energies and powers that are not material. We teach ourselves to work with them because they have the power to transform everything. We do not, without their support, have that power, unless you want to be a Napoleon or a Hitler or whatever. We don't have that power. It does, but it also needs us in order for it to be transmitted and become the way it can be and will be over time. Yeah.
I love it. I love the sparkly breadcrumbs, I call them, or the slithering rainbow serpent that you have followed on this path to bring these teachings out to the world. They're really sweet. Lisa. Oh, so I just could keep on talking forever, but as we kind of come to a close, I love that message of spending a couple nights in nature, unplug, pull away from the phone, the signals, the frequency, and really just be with the frequency of nature and its aliveness, so that we can really find ourselves back at the fire and beating of the drum and really connecting with how us, the human family, has come together.
Indigenous Americans have a lot to offer everyone on earth, a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Take advantage of it. That's all I can say. If you're an American, take full advantage of it.
exactly. Find the people
Yeah,
who are still connected to the land
yeah.
in,
And there are non-Indigenous people who also are very beautifully connected to the spirit of land,
yeah,
Yeah, like that. Not just Indigenous now, also non-Indigenous, but Indigenous people are still holding that. Yeah, you can be sure they've got that thing. Yeah.
exactly. And it feels like, even as the European culture became more ripped away from nature, there was a point
Mm.
that we were actually connected to land.
Oh,
There's
yeah, yeah,
seed of
yeah.
that indigenous in our heart, but it's just been through so much trauma and violence
That's
and
right. That's right.
oppression that we had to hide those things in ourselves.
That's right. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, as we wrap up this conversation, I wanted to let people know about your free offer and how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, that was very generous of me. Maybe I should revoke that. That was
What's that?
very generous. That
Your
offer.
free offer? Well, I think
No,
it's
no, I really
I
look
think
forward
it's
to that. No, I think it's a great
exactly.
fun for 5
So we
people.
have
Yeah,
at
terrific.
totalreset.com.au. So you get
Mm.
connected to the Australian site. During the week of this summit, you are going to, for the first 5 people who buy your book or audiobook, you're going to be offering a free 30-minute Zoom chat conversation.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
that
Anyone who buys on that website, yeah, that's right. That's the deal. And that's something I look forward to.
Oh, you're
That'll be
so,
a joy.
so fun to have conversation with you.
Yeah.
You're such a great reservoir of knowledge. And yeah, so totalreset.com.au is your website. And then that's where you can find your book and some other videos and things that you're up to.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, any other last things you want to share as we say goodbye?
I just want to say that we all live in a heart of joy and love and peace. It's our natural state of being. Everything else is learned, conditioned, and false. So, whatever the circumstances of one's life are, however wonderful or horrible, that joy, love, and peace never changes. It is always there, pulsating inside. Go there, rest there, sleep there, and know who you are.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Greg,
Thank
so
you,
much
Liisa.
for all this
Great
beautiful
pleasure.
sharing.
You're doing
Yeah.
wonderful work. Keep it up.
Thank you. And just to all the listeners out there who have invested their time into this conversation, I just want to send my gratitude and thanks for you spending a moment to open your mind and your heart and connect with your divine nature, one rooted in nature. And if this conversation inspires you and you want to share it with anyone, please do so. And just sending lots of love and blessings to you all. Much gratitude. Thank you.
Ciao.